We are at week 4 in our how-to series. And if perhaps today is the first time you have been a part of this series, let me do a little catching up. How-to is our take on how to grow deeper on purpose in our relationship, in our faith walk, whatever phrase you want to use. But what we're trying to do is kind of capture this sense of how do we do it purposefully? How do we not just back into it? What are kind of the expectations that we need to step into? The first week we talked about our response, and our response as yes, or our response as, well, I've always been doing this, or yes, I was saved, I was born again. Whatever language you have been a part of, we see that as step 1. Step 2, we talked about prayer. We talked about prayer as communication, and one of the things I think we all agreed on is that we talk more than we listen, and it probably needs to be the other way around. And then last week we talked about showing up. What does it mean to be fully present? A lot of times we are physically present, and we can check that off the list. But even now, I'm pretty confident that some of us are sitting there thinking about, okay, where are we going to go for lunch? And gosh, I forgot to put this out, or I need to do this, or the list goes on, doesn't it? I mean, we all do that day in and day out. Sitting in worship is no exception. If you notice, each week these kind of get successively perhaps deeper, a little more kind of up towards the heart, or wherever it is kind of your control center. Well, hold on, because today's going to go even a little bit deeper, and it's going to get into that subject that so many of us have in the past allowed to make us crazy, and it is about our stuff. It is about our money. It is about all of those things connected to that, whether we are a holder-honor or a giveawayer. It is how we use that or allow God to use us in and through what we already have. So, as a person who has long had a history of, like, all you had to do was say to me, money, tithing, church, offering, and I just start spending. Any of y'all do that? Anybody else in here kind of go to their crazy place? Even if you don't want to admit it, I know many of y'all do. So I'm just going to operate like I think I can read your mind. And then there is this mindset that many go into. It's kind of a defensive posture. Oh my gosh, there goes the pastor again talking about money. See, even y'all hear how we said it? Just kind of like beaten down. Money. Again? Well, what if this morning we just agreed to not go there? What if we agreed to not go crazy and just thought about it through the lens of, well, this might actually be something I need to learn. Before we get there, though, I'm going to say some phrases, and you don't have to raise your hand. You will just, I wish I could see everyone's eyes. Some of these are statements that I am convinced you are thinking even now. So you're going to talk about money, Meyer. Do you know how in debt I already am? Some giggles to that one. Did you know that I have over $50,000 in college loans to repay? Some of you might be thinking. No, I do not, thank the Lord. You watch the news, Meyer? Have you seen what happened to oil? My pension is on the rocks, you might be thinking. I don't trust anyone with money but me, and even then, I'm a little shady. Money, God, fear, trust, security, generosity, tithing, all of those phrases don't have to elicit a fear in us. This morning, I think it's, what I want to invite you to do is kind of go with me into what I kind of am thinking of as like the final frontier, kind of this faith frontier that many of us keep over here. God, I'm going to give you my time. I'm going to give you my talents. I'm all about praying, but please don't get all caught up in my business. Well, I think it's important that we take a deep breath and open the door to some other possibilities. All right? We're going to do that this morning by comparing our perceived role in two different texts. And they're both stories in the New Testament, parables. We've talked a bunch in here about parables. Parables are about kingdom of God issues and our part in that story. And I'm trying to figure out a way to set us up so that we're not Well, just listen to this parable. It's going to be up on the screen. And try to be honest when you begin putting yourself in the story about which of these three characters you are, okay? Honest. Be honest. Matthew 25. It's on the screen, or you hope you can have a Bible or look at it on your phone. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earn 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. Which one of those are you? Are you number 1, number 2, or number 3? What do you think? Are you a hider? How can you turn this down a little bit, or is it me just... There. What do you think? Just contemplate for a minute. Can y'all still hear me okay? Good. God entrusts us with resources. Do we use them wisely? Do we invest them? Do we take care of them? Or do we go to perhaps a fearful place and bury them? Let's read a little bit more of the text. So the master returns. The servant to whom he entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more. The master said, Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling the small amount. So now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you to be a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here is your money back. But the master replied, You wicked and lazy servant, if you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. Ouch. Ouch. You know, sometimes we read parables or other stories, and we always like them to have a really feel-good, happy ending for everybody, don't we? Especially when we portray ourselves honestly into the character that might have been the guy that dug the hole and hid the money, right? One of the interesting parts about this text is what that person actually kind of just made up about the master. He says in 24, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops. I was afraid I would lose your money. So is it about the master or the guy? When we kind of get cornered, what do we like to do? Because it's right, you know, like if I'm cornered, not that I really did anything wrong, probably you just heard me wrong. Right? So there's even good deflectors in the Bible. All right, so if that has made you squirm a little bit, good. Let's move forward to Luke 12 and continue to contemplate what is God's expectation of us and goods and money and stuff. Luke 12, 16 through 21. Then he told them a story. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. He said to himself, What should I do? I don't have room for all my crops. Then he said, I know, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have room enough to store all of my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, My friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now, take it easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, You fool, you will die this very night. then who will get everything you have worked for? Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. Kind of a quandary, isn't it? What to do with all of this stuff? What could that guy have done? If he hadn't built a bigger barn, perhaps he could have what with all that stuff? Share. Well, there's an idea. Share. I think we need to do a little refresher this morning about our understanding of all the stuff that we have and where it really came from in the first place, and what our role is in relationship to all of this stuff. Would you agree with me that everything we have is from God? Yes or no? Yes? And you're okay with the word everything? All right. I'm not, this is not a loophole or anything. I'm not going to like zing you in a minute. You're like, yes. So if everything we have is from God, would you agree that we are, whatever word you want to use, trustees? The word I like is stewards. You know what a steward is? A steward is a person who manages something for somebody else on someone else's behalf. So, this is where it gets a little dicey, I think. We get amnesia and we forget that what we have is from God and not from us. Would y'all agree? And that while God is off taking care of like the blizzard or something, we move into the big corner office and decide that no, really, we're the big CEO here, and we're going to kind of pull an Alexander Haig and say, God, I'm here, I'm in control, and everything is fine. And that's a little history droplet young kids won't even know about. So why do we do that? Is that, I've done that. I've done that probably, how old am I, 57? 50 years of my life. I directly connected everything I have to me versus to God. And I thought I was very benevolent when I would make an effort at tithing, or I would give something that I had outgrown to someone else. I don't think that that's necessarily being a good steward, do y'all? What is it about our nature? And if you are not in this and you are super great with money, well, kudos. You're my hero. But many of us get our personal value connected to money. We get our social status connected to money. And whether we have it or not, we kind of identify ourselves in there. And then we don't even begin to think about like generosity and living freely with what we have, because we're operating out of this place of fear. And if I give to you, then I'm not going to have enough, because I don't ever know when I'm going to need what I have. And we get crazy, I think. What can we do to get over that? Because truly, if indeed we are just stewards, I think it would change the perspective by which we see everything that comes in and out of our wallet, everything we buy, where we live. We're really just kind of passing through here. I've heard all those crazy jokes before. You can't take it with you, and blah, 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 blah. But imagine with me for just a moment that, well, you know what? I have a video that will show it better. Y'all have seen this before, but I think I just kind of dare you to figure out which one of these people. You remember this? It's called God's Pie. Some of us have seen this before. Check this out, and then we'll talk some more here in a minute. Did you understand the German guy that said, "Dude, he brought the pie"? So, how do we feel when we see that? I didn't show it to make us feel like guilty and convicted, but a little guilt and a little conviction isn't necessarily a bad thing when we have to get serious about what are we doing and how do we let our money and stuff impact our faithful living? It seems to me that it's pretty clear that as faithful disciples, we are called to reframe or to frame what we have as a gift. And are we supposed to be like my little 4-year-old granddaughter who just loves to hoard all her gifts and just dare anybody to touch them? Or are we to see our role as a steward of managing them and sharing them and passing them on accordingly? I thought to wrap up this morning, we might do a little exercise that how many of us are used to or have just recently had a year-end review? Raise your hand. Anybody here have a year-end review at where you work? It's somewhat like a report card. So you guys in school can somewhat relate to this. But I played with this little notion of as we sit down, perhaps with God, and it's time for our year-end review, wonder what questions God would ask us about how we have done as stewards. And depending on how you answer these, I think these will lead you and me kind of down a pathway of, we'll just call it revelation. So God comes in with God's performance review and a little clipboard and says first, well, Meyer, did you understand the responsibilities at the beginning of the year? Well, maybe. All right, what would you say? If God said, well, Clay, do you know, did we all understand the rules? So you're going to have all this, and you read that part of the Bible about kind of what I expect you to do with it. Would you answer, or would you just say, let's keep going? And some other questions I think God would perhaps ask us in our review. Well, Doug, did you use the time well, your time well in managing these resources? Some days, not always. Did you waste time? Probably. Did you waste any of these resources? Probably. Did you use these resources to care for others? A little bit. Did you use these resources to take care of yourself? A little bit. Did you use any of these resources in an irresponsible manner? Probably. Did you use any of my resources wastefully? Probably. And this is where it starts making that awkward turn that performance reviews sometimes do. Because there's this really long, quiet time, and God's just kind of looking, and you just are reading the eyes for any sense of hope. Or, and can you imagine if God clears God's voice and gets a gulp of water, and then looks at you and says, well, I'm trying to figure out whether or not how your pay should be adjusted accordingly to your previous performance. Should I continue to entrust you with what I've already entrusted you with? Hope so. Would you make eye contact even? I think I would probably be. Should I give you a raise? Perhaps I should give you a raise. Is a demotion in order? Should I be fired? I don't know about you, but I would be very relieved when that performance review was over with. And even yesterday, as I finished that up, I thought, that for me, I need tools like that to kind of take the scripture off the page and into my life. Was a very helpful exercise to examine the sense of accountability to God with all of the stuff that I have. I can kind of live in a world that is very distant. God, I'm trying really hard. I'm going to preach about it. The people I do life with, we're working hard. But is there a point at which working hard is not enough? Is there a point at which I need to recommit my efforts to do better and to see that every last little thing I have is a gift from God, and that my role in that, my role of honoring God, my role as growing deeper in my faith, is to embrace what it means to be a steward and to live into that more fully. I think probably yes is the answer. I think that is for sure what I need to do, and only you can answer what you need to do. You also have another choice. You can defer this. We're great at deferring, right? We can continue to put this over there in that section that someday when I have a whole lot more money, I'll worry about it because it'll be easier then, right? I don't think so. Let's pray. Holy God, money and stuff and sharing it and being generous is a real struggle for many of us. We have for a long, long time found our security day in and day out in sitting on a big stack of it or fretting over a little stack of it. Help us, God, to spend some time with you, figuring out a new way to live in relationship to all this stuff. In your name we pray. Amen.